to make a house for yourself. So both of you don't have to do anything. I will do. I will wash the clothes. I will cook. I will clean the vessels. And Sita Devi, some acharyas comment humorously, Sita Devi, who's a princess, said, "Oh, great! If I don't have to cook and clean pots, Lakshmana, uh, you're already as part of the party." But Ramachandra also has to agree. So he tells Ramachandra, "I will collect and assist you in all sorts of ways. Aham sarvam karishyami. I will do everything for you. And when Jagratah Swapatashyate, when you are awake, you need assistance, I'll take care of you. And when you are in sleeping condition, when you lie down on the ground and you're sleeping, that time also I'll take care of everything, which means I will stand guard." So he's making a vow. I will gather fruits and everything. I will serve you when you are awake and when you are sleeping, which means Lakshmana taken a vow to not sleep at all for 14 years. Now, in this verse, there is something that technically, from a heart perspective, is very, very perfect, but there is a slight tinge of something in this Sharanagati that Lord Ramachandra will address much later when they go to the forest. So remember, I'm keeping something open here, and remember this phrase, Aham Sarvam Karishyami. And this is something Ramachandra will address, not right now, later. This is one thing about Lord Ramachandra. He doesn't immediately jump to fixing it. He's just letting Lakshmana express his wonderful Sharanagati emotions, but wants to correct it a little later when they're in the forest. Aham Sarvam Karish. So this prayer of Lakshmana is something that is consistent with Rupa Goswami's teachings in Nectar of Devotion, in the section of uh, prayers, one of the 64 limbs of bhakti is offering prayers to the Lord. And Rupa Goswami says that there are three categories of prayer. One prayer is called Samprarthanatmika. Samprarthanatmika means reciting prayers or shlokas of other previous famous devotees, or singing stutis. So, for example, people recite Purusha Sukta. For example, we recite Brahma Samhita. We didn't make these up. We didn't create them. Lord Brahma, the demigods, they all sang. So we repeat them. Vishnu Sukta or Sikshashtaka prayer. These are all the Samprarthanatmika. Someone else's prayers, we apply and recite them genuinely. Then he says the second category of prayer is called Dainyavodhika. Dainyava Adhika, where there is intense, too much Dainya is humility. Uh, Another way of understanding Dainya comes from the word Dina. Dina means one who has nothing else. They have no other option. Such a person is called Dina. Therefore, Krishna is called Dina Bandhu. Or in Kunti's prayers, Akinchana. Those are the persons. So, Dainyava Adhika, one who feels intensely bereft of any other option. And part of it is the reason they have no other option is their own disqualification. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other great acharyas have written many, many, many prayers about their disqualification. One of the famous verses is when Bhaktivinoda Thakur is pleading to his spiritual master. He says, Yogyata vichare kichu nahi pai. When I look at and examine what is my qualification, kichu nahi pai. I don't find anything there. Or in the bhajan, O He Vaishnava Thakura, He says, I have nothing. You have everything. And you please give me one drop of the, the love of love towards the name of Krishna. So these are Dainyava Adhika. So in Prahlad Maharaj's prayers, he begins with, uh, who am I? I'm the son of Hiranyakashipu. I come from a very horrendous family background. And all these great persons are standing here who are reciting fantastic shlokas glorifying you. What can I say? This is Dainyabodhika. And the third category of prayer is called Lalasa Mayi. Lalasa is aspiration. Lalasa Mayi means full of aspiration or imbued with aspiration. So Lakshmana's prayer here of Aharishyamite Nityam, this is aspiring. I will serve you in this way. We as followers of Prabhupada are familiar with the song Radha Krishna Pranamura Yugala Kishore. The same mood of Lakshmana, both Radha and Krishna, Pranamura. Therefore, he's holding on to Ramachandra's feet. Therefore, Yugala Kishore. They're always together. And then he goes through a list. I will swing you. I will make a throne, nice throne for you. I will offer chamara to you. Chamare dhulaya hibo, etc. So it's very important. Now, someone may consider the taking Sharanagati of Lord Ramachandra or Lord Krishna. What if one doesn't address his consort? Then there is a flaw in that Sharanagati. The, the flaw is taught through two people, Ravana and Shurpanaka. Shurpanaka wanted Ramachandra but not Sita Devi. So she is misguided intelligence. So misguided intelligence is I want the Lord, but I don't care for his energies. I sort of decry his energy or I neglect. And Ravana, who's lusty, only wants the energy, Sita Devi, but not Ramachandra. So lust separates the energy or isolates the energy from the energetic, the Shakti from the Shaktiman, and thinks that the Shaktis are for me to enjoy. This is lust. But to think that Ramachandra is only exclusively mine, the Shaktis are not to be respected, is misguided intelligence. So both, Yugala Kishore, both are to be there. There is never ever a time or situation where the Supreme Lord and his energy are separated or isolated. They're never like that. Wherever the Lord is there, all his opulences are always with him. Therefore, he is called Bhagavan. Bhagavan means one who has Bhaga, his opulence. And one who doesn't have opulences cannot be Bhagavan. Therefore, in all circumstances, in all times, he never changes from being Bhagavan. So the reason I'm saying this is their famous Mayavad or Advaita philosophy tells, oh, when you become enlightened, you become God. So for you to become God means at some point, logically, you have not been God. That means all your bhagas are not there. So if your bhagas are not there, and one fine day suddenly it's not like you find them. So by definition, Bhagavan means at all times, at all places, his opulences are always with him. All right. So that is Lakshmana who said, this is what I'm going to do while you're awake and asleep. Because he pleaded to Sita Devi, Ramachandra agreed and said, all right, Lakshmana, you can also come along. But this is what you need to do. Go and bid farewell to all your friends. Okay. And when we had gone with Vishwamitra Muni to Janaka's palace, we were given certain gifts. Bring those gifts with you. And these are the gifts. In Janaka's palace, Varuna himself had given us two very amazing bows. So bring them. He also gave us two impenetrable divine armors. Bring them. He gave us two inexhaustible quivers. So the quivers will never become empty. As they are shooting arrows, they get replenished, auto replenish. And he gave us two swords that were gold plated, and they were so effulgent and as bright as the sun. So bring those two swords as well. And these weapons, when we received from Varuna, we had deposited in Vasishta Muni's palace or home. So go and bring them. We need them to take with us into the forest. So question is, why uh, we hear about these gifts from Varuna here and not earlier, when Lord Ramachandra married Sita Devi and he had broken the bow of Lord Shiva earlier. So, as part of the storytelling, certain incidents and details Valmiki keeps for us to hear at different times, because, like in any good story, as you're speaking in the present moment, you have to go back to what's called flashback. You have to go back in time so that the pictures or the pieces fall into place. So, another episode like this is when they are in the forest. Indra's son, who's in the form of a crow, comes and pecks and scratches Sita Devi. So we don't hear that in Aranyakanda. We hear that incident in Sundarakanda. And Sita Devi takes Hanuman into a flashback that this is what happened in the forest. It's part of fascinating storytelling. Okay. So that ends chapter 31. I wanted to keep extra time today for some questions that you may have from this chapter, previous chapters. If there are any questions, comments, if you've been thinking about Ramayana, uh,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
realizations or reflections. Yes, Yamuna Jivana Prabhu.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. I thought you
No,
paused for.
go ahead. I was just finishing up my sentence. Go ahead.
Okay. So one apology first is that I didn't record the class from the beginning. Oops. So I only started up at 10:30. So
Oh,
deep apologies to you and to the on the call. Question I had is what can we learn from the fact that Kaushalya was unable, yet Lakshman and Sita were both able to convince Ram to take them along with him?
Kausalya could not convince Ramachandra because Kausalya's going would violate dharma. Violate the dharma that the wife should, when the husband is alive, should not abandon the husband. Second, he is the king. So the queen cannot just abandon the king because he said or did something that she didn't like. So in fact, he advising Kausalya to stay with Dasharatha gives Sita Devi a very strong point that what applies to Kausalya applies to me. I cannot be without you. And Lakshmana's quality is that I don't need to be here. I am a surrendered servant to you. So I need to be where you are. Wherever you are, that's where I'm supposed to be. This is since our childhood. Uh, when once the four children were in their cribs They were crying incessantly, yelling, crying intensely. And the mothers and the attendants of the queens tried different things to uh, make them quiet down, but they did not. So they went to Vasishtha, and Vasishtha Muni said, "Oh, I know what's going on." So he changed the order of the cribs. He brought Lakshmana's crib next to Ramachandra's and took Shatrughna's crib next to Bharata's, and their crying reduced. So instead of the wailing, they were still crying. So the mother said, "Oh, how wonderful!" But they're continuously even crying. They haven't stopped crying. They've just stopped wailing. Then Vasishtha took Lakshmana from his crib and put him in Ramachandra's crib. Took Shatrughna and put him in Bharata's crib, and no crying. So Lakshmana is making the case that I need to be with you. Now, from Ramachandra's side, he doesn't want to impose on Lakshmana saying, "Okay, Lakshmana, I'm going to the forest, come along." But when he was going to be coronated the king, he said, "Lakshmana, you and I will rule as equals." So Ramachandra's sweetness in his relationship with Lakshmana is that when I'm enjoying, I will offer all of my uh, enjoyment, I'll share my enjoyment fully with Lakshmana. But my pain, I don't want anyone else, I can't give anyone else my pain. So it's not one of those things where people say that, oh, my pain, I cannot talk to my friend. That's not the issue. He's telling Lakshmana, this is what has happened. But he doesn't want Lakshmana to suffer living in the forest when he's neither been ordered that way by Dasharatha. So why should Lakshmana go? So Lakshmana is making a case through Sita Devi. So Lakshmana came because of Sita Devi's grace. Mahayasha. Ati Yasha is what is called. He found out that the trick to convince the Lord is to go through his consort. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think so. It's very clear now, especially the point of they both in one sense had a were in a position to go with him, whereas Kaushalya, due to her duty,
Right.
she had duty to her husband. She couldn't or shouldn't have.
Coming up is someone may ask why Urmila did not go. If she cannot, if the what applies to Sita Devi should apply to Urmila.
Yeah,
But Urmila made a choice not to go.
yeah, that's beautiful.
Very, very sweet. Urmila said, listen, Ramachandra and Sita Devi will be there together, enjoying their 14 years in the forest. If I'm there, then your service will be distracted. You will have to take care of me, or you will think that you can enjoy with me the pleasure groves, the mountains and the waterfalls. That is not service for you. So I will stay here. You take care of your service with full intensity.
So I have another question, if
Yeah,
I ask. Oh, sorry, Parma Prabhu.
My God,
Um,
he spoke. You were able to figure it out.
the face shows up on the screen.
Why don't you finish your question, then I'll ask.
so I've been thinking about this topic of justice,
Mm.
and especially because of modern context. What are your thoughts on, given that you've deeply studied Ramayana, how would Lord Ram, who, when obviously he was dealt with in a very unfair way, with the head held high and not disturbed at all, went to the forest. How would such a person respond to what we see in the world going on today and the clamor for justice?
So there are categories of persons. um, great personalities who are beyond bodily concept and who are akinchanas, but particularly akinchanas, they don't have the sense of rights. They have a sense of duty. So they will say and do from the platform of duty. For, I should say, all of us or most of us, certain rights are necessary. Those rights protect us to be able to pursue the basic needs of life. So when setting up a framework, a social framework, everyone is given certain rights. We call them equal rights. Equal rights, although if you notice carefully, rights are never equal. They're distributed equally. The rights to freedom, the right to happiness is equal. But depending upon who's where, they have certain rights and others don't have certain rights. So that's for the conditioned persons, if you will. But those who are above the conditioning, they're not interested in, they don't have the sense of rights. They will take their rightful place as a king. Here Ramchandra will take his place as a king, but that taking is from a sense of duty, from a sense of service. Uh, I think about this topic often because many years ago, I think about 12, 13 years ago, Radhika Raman Prabhu visited IIT as part of our program there and spoke on rights versus duties. And it was very well said. He said, if you look at the Eastern cultures, the Eastern cultures are primarily focused on a sense of duty. And he said, if you look at the Western cultures, they're very focused on rights. So it's working for the same thing, just coming at it from a different uh, from a different way. So sense of duty means because of the sense of family and community is very strong in the Eastern cultures, every person is taught to think and behave in how are my words and behaviors going to affect others. In the Western cultures, because of persecution and whatever the history is, everyone has to, they're grounded on what is carved out for me. So rights by nature focuses a person's vision towards themselves and duties orients them towards others. And both are necessary. I should have my basic rights for freedom or happiness, whatever, and I have a sense of duty. When it gets too shifted towards rights, then people have no sense of social uh, commitment or how their behaviors affect them. So for Ramachandra, it's all about duty. When Yudhishthir Maharaj also said, "Oh, why should I be the king? This is not, for my sake, so many people died." He's been told by Bhishmadev, "This is not because of your rights. This is because of your duty to be the king and make sure that Krishna consciousness is widely spread. That's your duty. Being the king, it may be your right, but that's not the reason. Whether it's the right or not is not the consideration. So those who have a sense of duty will make sure that people's rights, or leaders will make sure that their people's rights are honored. A right to life, a right to facilities, and a right to expression, a right to freedom. This is what a leader should do. They preserve others' rights. So for Ramachandra, that consideration is not there for himself. For others, yes, not for him. He told Sugriva, "You're the rightful king for Kishkinda." He told Vibhishana, "You will be the rightful king for Lanka because your sense of duty is very, very strong." So both are necessary. Rights should not be violated. And those who have a sense of duty will preserve those rights for others. I'm repeating myself. I hope that addresses a little bit. It's a big topic, so I'm just addressing at a principle level.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, like in the case of the sages in the forest, Ram left no stone unturned to give them protection and ensure that their rights were given, were upheld.
Their rights were not encroached upon. Until, as long as it's not like Rakshasas cannot live in the forest. They live. But when they started encroaching upon the rights of others, that's when Dharma Sansthapanartha, he needs to intervene. Rakshasas also have rights, so they will eat.
So that's in a position of a leader as a Kshatriya.
Right.
And I apologize for dragging on with this, but us as being, in one sense, we're devotees of Krishna, or trying to be. So in one sense, we do have some degree of responsibility to society.
Yeah.
And if the Kshatriya setup right now is not well refined, or basically doesn't know what they're doing, how can or should we participate in today's social unrest?
Depends on the forum we are in. Because we as devotees, we also participate in different forums. So relevant to those forums, we have to voice. Not everyone may understand transcendence, but people may understand mode of goodness. So however, as devotees, either we have a voice, we express, we whatever, condemn, depends on the forum we are in.
Sorry, Prabhu, I only heard 70% of what you said because my little guy was trying to mess with me and screaming in the background.
Oh, okay. All I was saying is it depends on the forum that we are part of. And in different forums, we may say the same thing differently. So in some forums, they may understand transcendental type conversation or higher dimensional conversation. In some forums, they may understand more goodness level. And in some forums, they understand much below. But either way, if it can uplift them from wherever they are to even 1 degree higher, then that's service done. So it depends on the forum, how it is spoken, how much is spoken, or what is spoken.
Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is Paramahansa. I was particularly observing how much there is room for discussion when there is an instruction that is coming from superior authorities. clearly, like in the case of both Mother Sita as well as in the case of Lakshman, um, Ram was wanting them to stay back, but they pretty much altered the, if you want to call it, instructions from Lord Ram by a thorough discussion. But of course, what is the dominating factor here is the deep love and affection that they carry for each other. I was just trying to reflect on the beginning days of our Krishna consciousness. When we receive some instruction, the tendency is just to take it as a weight coming on our head, and then we almost feel like there is no room for conversation or discussion, and we just tend to follow through. So I was wondering whether if you can share some yardsticks that we can rely on to understand when there is a room for discussion and when there is not.
When there is a when there is enough trust in the relationship, there's a lot more room for conversations and dialogue than in the absence of it. So let's look at, you gave Lakshmana and Sita Devi's reference. Both of them have a particular or individual rasa with Lord Ramachandra. So in Lakshmana's rasa, while he is junior, younger brother, there is also brotherly affection mixed in it. So in that brotherly affection, he's sort of negotiating. And if you notice carefully, he's not negotiating even a little bit for himself. It's all about convenience of Lord Ramachandra, service to Lord Ram. It's all about Ramachandra, not about him. So he can speak freely. When it comes to something about him, he will not. So that's that rasa there. The brotherly, there is some brotherly Sakhya rasa that is quite intense. In Sita Devi's case, as I told us last week, that in the Madhurya rasa has other rasas also included in it. So she can be motherly in one sense, she can show affection of one kind. She can be friendly, she can be subservient, she can be equal or superior. Depends on the circumstance. So that rasa has intense or has a lot more intimacy. So she exerted that part saying, I want to be with you. And she also spoke from service and Shringar both. So service was, I will walk ahead of you and crush all the thorns. And from a relish, I will enjoy mountains and hills and rivers and waterfalls with you. So service was there, friendship was there, and Shringar or Madhurya Rasa. So with that relationship, there is a lot more room. Now for younger devotees, when we first meet our spiritual master, it's not like the very first time we get an instruction. Some people do, but it's not a license for, help me understand why you're speaking like this. What is it? It doesn't mean that we should not have a conversation. I'm not negating that. But in the initial time also, the instructions are also lightweight, not heavyweight instructions. Very rare cases. So there is room. But you'll find later when Lakshmana is given instructions, there's no argument. Do this, and he does that. Two instances. When Ramachandra has to fight Kharadushan and 14,000 demons, Lakshmana says, let me fight them. This is not even worth your time. Ramachandra says, no, take Sita Devi into the cave and stay there. I will take care of them. He doesn't protest. Then when he's running after the deer, he tells Lakshmana, you stay here. So Lakshmana stays. So there are times when it's exerted and sometimes it's not. Did I answer your question? Did I over answer it? Or not at all?
Well, thank you so much. It was so nice to hear. Thank you.
I'm not saying that dialogue, there's no room for dialogue. There is always. One should know certain times you can have it. Certain times you're not given the, I shouldn't say you, we are not given the room by the spiritual master to argue or to counter or to bring up. Sometimes it's do it. So you do it. Sometimes it's more open. We should not think that every conversation we have the right for debate and questioning and all the time. That's a wrong understanding of relationship. Certain times it will be very clear. Do it. Do it this way.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Before a few weeks, you were describing about Kritam Vipakam, about the fate, and you raised one point that if someone is going to the bad fate, means situation not working properly with him, then we should not tell him that because of this karma or because of this situation you are facing this. But when we are reading Krishna
No,
book,
we should not tell. We should not tell him right away. Yes.
oh, right away. Okay. So because when Vasudeva was meeting, Nand Maharaj came to meet, so he came to Mathura to pay the taxes to Kamsa, and he met Vasudeva. And so when Vasudeva, Nand Maharaj was telling to Vasudeva that don't be aggrieved because we all are being controlled by our past karma, and one who knows the philosophy of karma is a man of knowledge, and he never get aggrieved. So in this situation, we see that Vasudeva was totally aggrieved because his 8 sons were killed, and Nand Maharaj was explaining the philosophy. So how can we look the situation in this?
So they are half brothers. So they have a very special relationship. So they already operate on a whole bunch of trust and love between themselves. So they don't need warm up time for. So suppose someone has lost a family member. We just don't walk in, even if they're friends, and say, this is all karmic activity, janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha dosha anudarshana. It is true, it is real, but that's not how it is spoken. So we first empathize. So it must be very difficult. Then there, oh, I understand this is all karmic. Yeah, you're right. Why did this happen? Sometimes it's difficult to explain why it happened. So there are ways of saying it. So it's not the words that we say. I was taught by my spiritual master. He said this many, many years ago. He said, uh, let me remember if I can say it the right way. He said, more important than what you say is how you say it. And even more important than how you say it is how they feel when you say it. That's very important. So here's an example, since you brought up Vasudeva and Nanda Maharaj. Narad Muni says the same truth to different people in different ways, depending upon their abilities. To the Haryashvas and Shavalashvas, it was straight up, hey, quit home. To King Prachina Barhi, he gave 6 chapters worth of stories. Said the same thing, but said very, very different. To Mrugari, he said, kill the animals fully. Don't do this half this. Kill them fully. He said, kill them. He didn't say don't kill. So it requires a very, very expert, empathetic, and kind person to know how, when, and how much to say. More importantly, how they feel about
Thank you very much. It makes so sense to me now. Thank you.
it. Any other questions from any of the chapters so far? Yes, Tita, go ahead.
On this topic of surrender, we may have previous conceptions.
Every time you ask a question, it feels like Akashvani.
We have previous conceptions and definitions of certain words like surrender.
Surrender. Yeah.
May possibly somebody could have told, hey, don't ask, just do what I say. And so that's kind of instilled in the mind as a definition of surrender. And then to me, when you say it's okay to have a conversation when you hear a suggestion or something that might seem like an instruction, then it feels like contradictory to surrender. Is it because of previous conceptions and somehow that definition needs to be worked on?
I'm not sure I understand the question, honestly.
Okay.
See if you can say it differently for me.
What I'm asking is, one might feel, or one might not be able to do something because the definition for them is not clear. And
so one should know what clear definitions. So in our Bhakti scriptures, for example, the definitions of surrender are all given very clearly. Sharanagati has six aspects. Anukulyasya sankalpa. One should accept those that are favorable to service. So Laxmana did. Pratikulyasya varjana. He rejected staying in Ayodhya because it was unfavorable for his service. Goptrutve. Krishna is my main tenant. Krishna is my only shelter. Dainyam, humility. There are 5, there are 6, like that. So 6 definitions are clearly given. Uttama Bhakti definition is given by Rupa Goswami. Anyabhilashita. You know this. Jnana Karmadina. Anukulyena Krishna Anushila. So if definitions are not properly understood, yes, they cause problems. So in any communication, right, we use certain words, and those words may carry different meanings for different people. So when we are hearing and we hear a word that has a different meaning or connotation to us, then we ask, did you mean this? Because that's what this word means. Did you mean that? And the person will say yes or no, and they get a chance to say a different word. Like I asked you, ask the same question in a different way. That's part of communication. It's part of Sharanagati because I want to follow. So if I don't understand what I'm supposed to do, how will I follow? So I will ask, how would you like me to do this? What are the boundaries for this? Whatever set of questions. There's nothing wrong in asking questions. Sharanagata people are not puppets that say like this, and no, they ask so that they can refine their service nicely for the spiritual master or Lord Ramachandra's pleasure.
Okay. I have another question. Mm, on the topic of, we were discussing judgment versus evaluation, and then you spoke about self-worth, and you said self-worth gets developed for a person by different aspects. Could be peer interaction or growing up or whatever. My question is, what if one feels that self-worth was not developed for some reason while growing up, and one is starting their journey as an adult to develop self-worth? Then how does one do that? What the roadmap looks like?
So first, recognition is always the first step, becoming aware of it, and then finding ways and means by which that is. And there are many different ways in which one can develop one's self-worth or self-image, including the Bhagavad Gita, wherever one feels, oh, I'm so this bad or that bad, or Krishna says, Mamaivamsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. So that's one self-image or identity or value, that I am a part and parcel of Krishna, and so is that person and that person, this thing and that thing, but I am also. So there are many ways. I'm not an expert at all the ways in which self-worth is developed, but there are many ways. So roadmap means awareness, and then clearly identifying steps and means by which that can be nourished, because it did not get nourished when one was young.
Okay. Thank you, bro.
Sure. All right, it's 11:20. Was there any one final burning question anywhere?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
When we went to Ayodhya Yatra, I remember the Bharata in Nandagram, they think that Bharata is great because he sacrificed and he could not even get to stay with Lord Rama. But both are really wonderful devotees. But I wanted to hear from you when you are comparing with Bharata and Lakshmana, how did you feel about that?
How did I feel about what?
I mean, I thought Lakshmana is getting Rama's association, but Bharata was not getting his association, but he was performing his duty, just taking care of the kingdom. So if you compare, because
So we don't compare. Why should we compare? What are we trying to achieve by comparing?
because the Bharata Nandagram Vasis were saying that Bharata is more great because he stayed without Lord Rama and he had gone through all the austerity and all.
Okay, so good. Nothing wrong. But that doesn't make one greater. That's, see, the pride of the devotees like that comes from what is called nahi ninda nyaya. that by glorifying Bharata, it doesn't mean they are putting Lakshmana as any less situation. Like in Mithila, they don't refer to Lord Ramachandra. They're all Sita Devi's fans. In Braja, they're all Radharani's fans.
Yeah, both are equally wonderful in their
But
own sense.
we should try to avoid words like equally wonderful or better. Each in their own place is amazing. And each is teaching different aspects of bhakti. Lakshmana is teaching Bhagavat Seva, and Bharata is teaching a different aspect of service to the Lord. Service in the presence of the Lord, service in the absence of the Lord.
Yeah, when I think Vani and Vapu Seva is something we can relate to that, right, Prabhuji?
Sure, if that helps you, sure.
Thank you.
Bharata is Bharata is very right wing. Lakshmana is very left wing. So Lord Ramachandra has both. Satyabhama is also there, Rukmini is also there. It's not like Krishna likes Rukmini more and Satyabhama less. No. Satyabhama,
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Again, this is very helpful. Hare Krishna.
okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Until we meet again, may Lakshmana inspire us. If you get a chance, I'll try to send you, or Yamuna Jina can send us that verse. If we learn this verse, Lakshmana will teach us who to surrender to, how to surrender, and with what intensity to surrender. Bratush Charanam, Gardham, Nipidya, Raghunandana. Uvacha Sitayam, Atiyasha. So we call on Sita Devi, we call on Radharani to please put in a word for us into the ears of Lord Ramachandra or Lord Krishna. Then only there is hope to do some seva. Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.